guys, what's up? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm gonna be filming my May wrap-up. First wrap-up in the new apartment. Isn't that so exciting? So the month of May was a pretty great reading month for me. I ended up reading a total of 11 books, which amounted to 3,873 pages. I did end up reading 8 books, and then I listened to 3 audiobooks because now I'm like living a little bit further from where I work, so I've actually been able to listen to more audiobooks on my commute, which has been great. I had 3 5-star reads, 3 4-star reads, 2 3-star reads, and then 3 2-star reads. So again, it was a great reading month, but it was kind of a mixed bag of reads, but I did have more on the positive end. 4 thrillers, 4 contemporary novels, and 3 romances. Pretty much a month where I just read all of my favorite genres of books, and I didn't really branch out of my taste, which is fine, I guess. And as far as male versus female authors go, I read all female authors this month. I didn't have a single male author, which I don't think has ever happened, and it was an unintentional first. And then checking in on my goals for this month, I did read one of my book of the month selections from this month, so we can check that goal off. I actually read 2 of my book of the month selections from this month, so and then checking in on my rereading goals, I did complete my reread this month, so I was on top of my shit this month. Let's just jump into what I read this month, shall we? So the very first book that I picked up this month is The Bride Test by Helen Hoang. This one was my book of the month selection from the month of May, and this one is a romance novel, if you couldn't tell by the cover. This is actually the sequel to The Kiss Quotient, even though this book can be read as a standalone. It's only considered a sequel because it follows the character Kai, who is the cousin from Michael in The Kiss Quotient, so that's the only reason why the books are related. So this story follows this character named Kai, who's on the autism spectrum, and he doesn't know if he's capable of feeling love. And then his love interest is this girl named Esme from Vietnam, and his mom goes to Vietnam and finds her to like be his bride. So we get this kind of fake arranged marriage kind of trope thing going on, and it was just so cute. Like their relationship was so adorable, and I just love that Helen Hoang's romances are always just so like diverse, and it was just like so cute, and it was the softest thing ever. And my favorite character in this book is Quan, Kai's older brother, and Quan was in the first book too, and I'm pretty sure there's a rumor going around that he's gonna be the main character in the 3rd book in this like trilogy, and I am like so fucking excited for that one because Quan is like my favorite from this book. But yeah, this book was super cute. I would say it's not quite as good as The Kiss Quotient. Like The Kiss Quotient is still like my shit because Stella Lane is like my bitch. This one I still gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Like I really enjoyed it. The second book I read this month is If We Could Go Back by Cara D, and when I read this book I didn't actually realize that it's the 6th book in like a romance series, but regardless it can be read as a standalone, but oops. This one is a male romance between Kieran and Bennett. This book takes place in Seattle, which is actually pretty cool, but neither of the main characters are from Seattle. One of them's from Boston and then one of them's from London, and they're just living in Seattle. So that's pretty cool because I live in Washington State. So unfortunately this book was actually pretty forgettable though as far as the romance went. This book did have some ongoing cheating, which I was just like not okay with because they're both married to women. They're just comfortable, I guess, continuing to cheat on their wives, and it just kind of made me uncomfortable to read because I'm just like not okay with cheating like ever like that. But the chemistry between them was really good and the writing was really good, so I still ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, but like it just irks me so hard. Like I can't get past it when like the main character is just like willingly cheating. The 3rd book I read this month was Again But Better by Christine Riccio. Let me throw out a disclaimer that Christine is like one of my favorite booktubers. Like she's probably like low-key part of the reason why I started this channel because I've been watching her for such a long time and she's just such an inspiration to me, and I just feel like I relate to her a lot. And so it's safe to say that I had some pretty high expectations going into this book just because of knowing her for so long through her channel. Unfortunately, this one ended up being a DNF for me. After 200 pages, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It makes me sad because like this is a contemporary novel that's like right on the brink of like YA meets new adult kind of age. She's going off to college overseas in London. I feel like some of this book was so relatable and so spot on, like so good, and then some of it was just like so cheesy, like YA, like cliche romance, like not good. And like it makes me so sad because I wanted to like love the shit out of this book, and when I started it I actually thought that I would, because it was reminding me a lot of Fangirl and like so many books that I love. But then like the main character just gets so crazy obsessed with this boy that she's like crushing on, and it just got very obnoxious like very quickly for me. And the main character Shane is so much Christine that it kind of like distracted me from the book, because it just took me out of the book because I couldn't focus on the main character. I was just thinking it was Christine the whole time. I don't know, it's like I appreciate all the effort that went into this book because I watched all of her writing vlogs and I was really excited for this book, and I appreciate what she's trying to do. I did not enjoy this one. I DNF'd it after 200 pages and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It was just not for me. Alright, the fourth book I read this month was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This was my reread of the month, and I did complete my reread, and now this is officially my most reread book of all time, with 3 times that I've reread it now. And I did listen to the audiobook for this one actually. I actually did make an entire video called Why I Love Fangirl this month, because I realized I never made a Fangirl book talk, and it's one of my favorite books of all time. Like, it's up there. I will link that below if you want to hear more of my thoughts about why Fangirl means so much to me. But if you didn't know, it's like this young adult contemporary novel that takes place in Nebraska, and it follows this girl Kath who writes a lot of fan fiction for the Simon Snow series. She is really close with her twin sister, and they're going off to college for the first time, and it's like just about her freshman year of college basically. And it's just one of my favorite books ever, and Kath is literally me in fictional format. Like, I've never related more to a main character ever, probably. So I loved it so much this time again. I gave it another 5 out of 5 stars. It's just one of my favorite books ever. Like, it just means so much to me. Fifth book I read this month is The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. This one is a thriller slash horror novel. It takes place partially in 1986 and then partially in 2016. We follow, in the 80s, we follow this group of a bunch of teenage boys and one girl, and they discover this body in the woods that's like different parts of the body are buried in different parts of the woods. It's very creepy. And then this book kind of talks about how that experience has affected their lives as an adult. And there's something that happens in their adulthood that is related and connected to what happened in the past, so it like stirs up all this shit in their adulthood. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And honestly, this book reminded me so much of It by Stephen King, because the group of boys in the 80s with one redhead girl friend, and just the whole like vibes of like the horror feel in the 1980s. Like, it was so It by Stephen King, just without the clown. Like, instead it's like this killer that they're trying to figure out like who it is. Parts of this book, like, oh my god, it was so creepy. And like some of the horror aspects of this book like got really freaking dark and creepy, and it actually gave me nightmares, because like I'm a little bitch and I was reading this right before bed and I literally had a fucking nightmare about it. So it was pretty scary. It definitely like stayed on my mind when I wasn't reading it, and I just really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, and the only reason why it didn't get a 5 from me is just because it didn't quite hit the mark at the end when I wanted it to. It had a really good plot twist like close to the end, but then the very end got a little bit like, it's not one of my like favorite thrillers of all time, but I still think it was really good, and it did what it was trying to do, and it was a great time. So I gave this one 4 out of 5. The next book I read this month is The Night Before by Wendy Walker. Thank you to Wendy Walker and St. Martin's Press for sending me an ARC. This book just came out on May 14th. This book is an adult thriller, and it follows these 2 sisters, Rosie and Laura. So Rosie like has a family and she's like got her shit together, and then Laura is like still trying to like find someone, and she like doesn't have her shit together, and Laura goes on this blind date with this guy, and then she like never comes back. And so then we follow from Laura's point of view on the night of the blind date, and then in alternate chapters we follow her sister's point of view the next day, trying to figure out what the hell happened to her sister. It was like so promising in the beginning. Like, I was really into it. Like, okay, I had a really slow start, and then it finally like picked up after like the first 50 or 80 pages, and then I got hooked, and I read a shit ton in one night, and it was so interesting. And then the end just like really dropped the ball for me. The end was just way too convenient for a thriller. It was just very like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I was just so disappointed by the way that this book wrapped up, and I just feel like I've read this storyline like a million times in thrillers. So like maybe if you're unfamiliar with thrillers and their plot lines and their tropes, then maybe you would enjoy this book, but because I'm such an avid reader of thrillers, I just feel like I've read this plot so many times and I've seen it done so much better in so many other books. Like there's nothing really wrong with this book, it just really dropped the ball for me at the end. I just wasn't impressed. So I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Well, 2.5 out of 5 stars. So it's technically rounded up to 3, but it's a 2.5. The next book I read is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo on audiobook. I listened to this audiobook and oh my gosh, you guys, this is one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to because it's narrated by the author herself, and because this book revolves around slam poetry and this book is written in verse. So listening to the author voice this book is just incredible. This book is a young adult contemporary that follows this girl, Xiomara. It's about her finding her voice in slam poetry, and it's such a gorgeous, beautiful story, and it tackles some really sensitive but important topics like sexual harassment, religion, sexuality, family, and just so many more things. Like it deals with a lot in this very short book. Like the audiobook is only 3 parts long. I think it's like 3 hours long, so you can fly through this audiobook. Like I listened to it within like 2 or 3 days. Like it's really easy to get through, and it's such a beautiful audiobook. And I just think that this story was so beautifully written and it was so well done, and I just like love the main characters so much. So I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Alright, the 8th book that I read this month is Necessary People. This was also one of my book of the month selections from this month. This is an adult thriller. It follows these 2 girls, Stella and Violet, who are best friends, and then Stella gets hired at the same place that Violet works at. And then she begins to like take all the credit, and Stella has always been like really rich and like really well off. Like her family is very, very wealthy, and Violet is like the opposite. So she's always kind of felt like in their friendship, Stella's always been like the one in the spotlight. So like obviously this causes a lot of issues in their friendship. Okay, I wanted to love the hell out of this book, but I ended up DNFing it after 170 pages into it. It says it's a thriller, right? And I was really excited because I love thrillers that revolve around toxic female friendships. Like, I don't know why, it's a trope that I really enjoy. So I was really, really, really excited about this one. But honestly, this book just feels like nothing is happening for so long in it. And I feel like the description that this book gives you, that it's like about these girls and then they get hired to work at the same place. Like they don't get hired to work at the same place until like a good chunk into this book. So I feel like that's kind of spoiling you on like some things, because like it doesn't happen for a really long time. I don't know, I just like found myself so incredibly bored while reading this, and I personally didn't give a shit about either Stella or Violet. I just found them both to be very like obnoxious, and Stella is like that typical privileged, rich, spoiled girl that I just like, I don't know, I just really didn't care, and it made me sad because I really thought I would love this book. Like I thought for sure. Makes me sad that I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. So the 9th book I read this month was The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is an ARC that I received on NetGalley from Atria Books. Lisa Jewell is one of my favorite authors. Like she is a thriller writer that I just absolutely love. Unfortunately though, I found this book to be like incredibly disappointing. This book is so hard to even describe like what it's about, and it follows like so many different points of views of characters. Each chapter doesn't really tell you which character you're reading from, so then you just kind of have to figure it out from reading from that perspective for a while and trying to figure out whose point of view you're reading from, which is a thing I really don't like, because like when I'm reading a thriller over like a period of time, like if I don't read it all in one day, it's very easy for me to forget some characters or like mix them up or whatever. Like, so it really drives me nuts when the authors won't put like which perspective you're reading from, because then I just have to like sit there and try to figure it out, and it's frustrating, and I'm just like, ugh. Especially in books like this where there's like so many point of views. It's going back and forth between these like 2 storylines, and I just found both of them like not very compelling. Like they were both just very like boring. And honestly, this book feels less like a thriller and more like a family drama. I was just really disappointed by this one. Like, I wanted to love it, obviously, because Lisa Jewell is one of my favorite authors, but I ended up giving this one 2 out of 5 stars. Alright, the 10th book that I read this month is All We Ever Wanted by Emily Giffin, and I actually ended up listening to the audiobook for this one because my library had it, and the audiobook is fantastic, by the way, because there are many voice actors who work on this one for different character voices, and it's just really, really great. This story is a contemporary novel, and it follows these 2 families. So the first family is this very like rich family. It has this husband Kirk, his wife Nina, and their son Finch, who's in high school. And then it follows this more like middle class, but like more on the poor side of middle class family. And it's the single dad Tom, and then his daughter Lila. And what ends up happening is the rich son's kid, Finch, ends up taking this very inappropriate photo of Lila when she's passed out at a party, drunk. And it's like exposing her, like she's like naked kind of in the picture. And then he posts the picture with a very racist caption. This book was so sad, but it's also so relevant and so important. And I feel like this book kind of has the same like very important strong message that Beartown has. Like, it was giving me a lot of like Beartown vibes when I was reading this, because it talks so much about these boys who are popular and they think they can just like get away with anything because like they're high up on the social, you know, ladder or whatever, and these girls who are at the bottom of the social ladder and just getting abused by these fucking rich men. Like, oh my gosh, like this book has so much to say about entitlement and privilege and how rich people can get away with like literally whatever they want. I felt so much for all these characters. Like, this book really fleshes out all of the characters. Like, it gives you the point of view of so many different characters. So it gives you the point of view of the dad who has to deal with his daughter going through this. It gives you her point of view of like the humiliation and the shame of like dealing with this situation, and it gives you the point of view of his mom, like Finch's mom Nina, and how she's so shocked that her own son would do something like this. And it talks a lot about like, as a parent, how do you cope with your child doing something so unimaginable? How far would you go to protect your child if you know that they did something wrong? God, it just like, it made me feel so much, and I literally was crying while I was listening to the audiobook. Like, that's how powerful this book was for me. I just don't know why this book isn't being talked about more, because like I would put this book on the same pedestal for me as like Little Fires Everywhere, like Beartown. Like, I feel like it's up there with like some of my favorite adult contemporary books that discuss like very big social issues. I just don't know why this book isn't being talked about more. Like, I loved it so much, and I just like, I just connected to these characters so much, and I just felt so much. So I ended up giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. Like, it's a new favorite of mine. All right, and the last 11th book that I read this month was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. This one is a male-male romance that follows Alex, who's the first son of the female president of the United States. And then it also follows Henry, who's a prince of England. They get into this altercation that makes them look like they have beef, and then the public relations people are like, no, you guys need to make it look like you're friends, because we can't have this because his mom is up for re-election and like everything is high stakes. So they're like, no, you guys need to work it out and make it look like you're friends. So then they have to like have this forced friendship even though they're like sworn enemies. Oh my god. And then like their friendship starts to blossom into like feelings and stuff. Dude, this book is so fucking cute and so good, because not only does it have like one of the cutest male-male romances of all time, like Alex and Henry are just like so cute, but it also is just like so hopeful to me for what America could be like in the future. This book is written in kind of an alternate universe because it takes place in 2016 when his mom got elected after Obama, and then this book takes place in 2020 when she's up for re-election. Like, the fact that we're just living in such a friggin' different reality right now is just so sad, but it also kind of like made me hopeful for like what the future could be like, what it would be like to live in an America that's very accepting of a female president, and so many things. And like, I don't know much about like England and politics over there and stuff, but like I could feel so much pressure on Henry in this book to, you know, marry a woman and join the military and do all these things that he's expected to do to carry on his legacy and whatever. And I love the fact that Alex is like half Mexican and he's from Texas. I know a lot of people are complaining that this book is too political and that the author's like trying to like shove their opinion down your throat. But it's like, of course this book is going to be about politics. Like, his mom is the president and their entire lives are like in the spotlight of the public eye. So of course there's going to be some discussion about politics and how this is going to like affect their families and stuff in this book. And I was actually really invested and interested in that part of the book because I know American politics so well. So I just found it very interesting, like this discussion of like what would happen. It was just so good, and it was so cute, and it made me cry a lot, and it's just a new all-time favorite book of mine. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I just loved it so much. But yeah, this book was just so cute. It was everything I wanted and more, and I'm really happy because I just put it in my 5-star predictions video and it was a 5 stars. So woo! Those are all of the 11 books that I read in the month of May. It was actually a pretty good reading month. Like, I think by far my favorite books that I read this month were my last two, All We Ever Wanted and Red, White, and Royal Blue. Those two books did a number on my heart. But I really did enjoy most of the books I read this month. Like, others that will stick with me for sure are The Chalk Man and The Bride Test. Really enjoyed those. And of course, my reread of Fangirl just meant so much to me this month, and like I really needed that shit this month, you know, like I really needed to reread one of my absolute favorite books of all time, and I just loved it. So let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are on these books. How many books did you read in the month of May? What was your favorite? What was your least favorite book? I want to know all the deets. Hook me up with the deets. Next month is Romanceathon, by the way, so please make sure to check out the announcement video. I'll put the links in the description. Please, I hope you can participate with us next month. I'm so excited for Romanceathon. I'm gonna be posting my TBR for the Romanceathon somewhere between June 3rd and June 7th. Hopefully that's when it'll be up. But I'm really excited, like really looking forward to it. I hope you can all participate. Also, I'm getting very close to 15,000 subscribers. I'm probably gonna be doing some kind of like 15K Q&A depending on when I hit 15,000 subscribers. But if you wanna ask me any questions, just be on the lookout for my Instagram. I'm probably gonna be posting a question box thing in my Instagram stories, if that's something that you care about. Yeah, I'm just very excited about all of the things, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon with a new video.